Hey everybody, it is Sunday night and I just thought I would shoot a little video here of my native tank. I want to do an update. Haven't really shot any video of this tank in a while, and I was in here looking at it earlier and thinking about it, so I thought I would just shoot a little bit of video. The tilapia in here has really not been an issue. It more or less grew up in this tank. If you don't know the story, I will quickly say that I got the tilapia by accident. I thought it was a sunfish, and I put it in the tank as a little tiny baby. And as it started growing, it quickly became obvious that it was not a sunfish. Found out that it was a spotted tilapia from Western Africa. It's an invasive species found in Florida. One of my viewers had shipped it to me from Florida. And it more or less grew up in this tank, and when it got big enough that it was finally starting to get aggressive, and I had a Mayan cichlid in this tank as well, which is still doing well, by the way. A friend of mine, I'll put a link to his channel if you would like to go check it out. The Mayan cichlid is still doing well over there. It's been a while since he's updated any videos of him, but he did just mention to me the other day that he is in there and doing well, and he is just as aggressive as ever. So the Mayan cichlid went to the friend of mine, and the tilapia got moved over into my 125. And then eventually the tilapia got big enough that it became problematic in my 125 and became aggressive towards my Tenopoma. And eventually I wound up moving it back into this tank. So I know it's not technically a native fish, but this tank has never been a 100% true biotope anyway. And in fact, I do have a Chinese algae eater in this tank too, and I just saw him a moment ago before I started shooting the video. Of course, me walking in the room scared it away and it darted off. The thing I was thinking about earlier that I wanted to actually shoot some video about and do a little bit of update on is my crayfish population in this tank. It seems to be dwindling. I've got less and less. I've actually been looking for them, and I can't find any that are clearly visible at the moment until you start looking into this bit of wood here. If you look right in there, I know it's kind of hard to tell, but that little thing sticking out, it looks like a little hair or a little something. That's the antennae, or one of them anyway, from a crayfish that's hiding right in there. And if you look right in here, you can see the claw, and here's a little bit of the head. It's upside down and its body goes down this way, and there's a crayfish hiding up under there on that piece of wood. And there's a few more here and there that hide down in the caves and little nooks and crannies here and there, and I saw a few earlier. During the summer and even into the autumn, when the weather's warmer and I can get down the stream on a regular basis and the crayfish are out and about on a regular basis, there's my Chinese algae eater sticking his little head out, I can go out and collect up these crayfish easily enough. I can catch more of them whenever I want. It's a fun, thing to do on a warm afternoon or whatever. We can go throw the trap out and go catch them. This time of year, however, there's not a lot I can do as far as the dwindling numbers. So I think the way the balance will work in this tank is if I've got so many crayfish that you see them on a regular basis and they're out and about and moving around the tank and interacting and bumping into each other, that's probably a population density that's too high to be sustainable in the tank. I've always sort of known that, but I've never really worked out a formula as to how many crayfish can safely be in any tank per given volume of water and all that. And even those kind of numbers you can never go with specifically, because it all depends on how you've got it scaped and how much hiding places there are, and is it a 20-gallon long tank versus a 20-gallon tall tank. So there's a lot of factors that go into that, and I've never really come up with any number for myself of how many adult full-grown crayfish I have in this tank. Now keep in mind, the crayfish that I have in this tank are virile crayfish. That is the species, not a description, and they are invasive to the state of Maryland. I don't think I've ever seen another crayfish in my life in Maryland that was not one of these crayfish. It wasn't until fairly recently that I actually found out that they're not native to Maryland. I just, to me, they were crayfish. I never knew there were multiple species of crayfish in Maryland, and apparently there are 2 other species, I believe, possibly even 3, but there's at least 2 other species native to Maryland. And I, in my life, that I, to my knowledge anyway, have never seen one of these native species crayfish. Everyone I've ever seen in the streams and rivers I've been around have always been these virile crayfish. So in and of itself, to me, what would be a native tank technically isn't even a native tank, because I have invasive species in this tank, even though I caught them right down the street in my little local stream. So again, no biggie with that tilapia being in there. I know that's bothers some people, but it doesn't bother me a bit. And you know what? It's my fish tank, so that's all that really matters, and I'm perfectly happy with it being in here. As far as the number of crayfish, though, I know I still have at least a few more that are still alive in addition to the 2 we've seen in the woodwork right there. I know I've got a couple more over this way because I saw them earlier. I doubt it was those same 2 in the wood that have made their way, you know, back up and over there. So somewhere over in this end of the tank there are more crayfish, and I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but there are some broken up pieces of crayfish. There's a claw, and that is the carapace. That is sort of the shell or the back plate of one of the crayfish right there. So I don't know if that's the result of a slough or is it the result of predation. And if it is the result of predation, who was the predator? Was it the tilapia or was it one of the other crayfish in there? I yet have not seen the tilapia even show interest in the crayfish. I know it's a cichlid. I know they can be aggressive based on what I've seen in their behavior towards my other fish, but those were, I want to say, conspecifics, similar enough that they were competitors to this. You know, my Tenopoma and my snakeskin gourami were sort of large-bodied fish that were compatible in size to this, and the tilapia showed a fair amount of hostility towards both of those fish. These fish, however, these minnows and schooling fish, seem to be just completely ignored by him. I mean, this whole video, we're more than 7 minutes into it now, and he's not really done anything except sort of hover in the water right there. He's a little bit afraid of me, probably since I just moved him, and, you know, getting caught in the net and everything is probably pretty traumatic for the fish. So when I go over, even when I open the lid to feed, he usually darts down at the bottom and lays low in the back until I've walked away, and then he'll come out and he'll start getting his food and everything. So definitely a different personality once he's in the tank and he's the big fish in the tank. Again, I haven't seen any real serious activity towards the crayfish, so I don't know if that's the case or not. I'd love to be in here one day and see him attacking a crayfish or going after one and tearing it apart. I know that sounds gruesome, but you know, that's the way it goes sometimes. And if I got that on video, that would actually be something interesting that I've not seen before, and that would be something worth documenting. Again, it might be a little on the morbid side, but it's still worth documenting nonetheless. So that about wraps it up. I don't really have too many other thoughts on this tank. I know we can't keep the big mystery snails in here anymore. They get eaten up pretty quickly. You can still see right back there, that dark thing is my shell from the black mystery snail that I put in here. And I think I put 2 black mystery snails in here, and I never have seen the other shell, so I don't know what happened to that. It's probably, you know, back there behind the rocks or something, and I just can't see it or whatever. I don't know. Lastly, I will say I am still planning on doing some more video where I sit in front of the camera and discuss some sort of topic discussions. I'll call it my layman's lectures or my thoughts on type series. So if that's something you liked, or if something you enjoyed and thought it was a good video format or a style that you liked, and you would like to just hear my thoughts about various aquarium topics and subjects that are of interest to the hobby, let me know what you thought about that, and let me know if you're interested in more of that. I am planning at least a few more, so you've got at least some of those to look forward to, and if you make sure you're subscribed, you won't miss any of those. So thanks for watching this one. Don't forget, this one is my native tank. See you real soon in the next one.